Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Shield podcast. I'm Gary Damer, the founder and CEO of Infusion Points. We build, manage, and defend secure cloud environments and regulated markets. And we spend a lot of time and living in the gap between compliance and engineering. So a lot around computers and making sure that those are built in a secure way, and then being able to prove they're also secure from a compliance perspective. And right now, we're really going through some dramatic changes in this space. At least from my perspective, we're seeing a lot of changes go on in this space. And today, we have a guest, Michael Peters. He's the CEO and founder of Lazarus Alliance and Continuum GRC. He's been operating in this space for, it looks like, about as long as I have. And from this point, he takes a pretty good snapshot of how the real world is working, because he's actually working in the environment today. And I believe he has several contracts in the federal space. So with that said, maybe you can do a better introduction than I did. So Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Gary. It's great to be here. Appreciate the invitation. Lazarus Alliance, a boutique consultancy. Primary activities are focused on compliance assessments, risk assessments, security, cybersecurity type evaluations, and all of the proactive pursuits, things that organizations should do proactively up front to prevent bad things before bad things could happen by doing nothing or whatever. So we try to operate in that space, global clientele, federal, local, tribal type, governments, more so in the private sector, but clients that come from all around the world just about. So it makes for some interesting evaluations, assessments. But if you were to look at our website, certainly a raft of authorizations, certifications, qualifications to do quite a number, pretty formidable list of these frameworks, these industry drivers, regulatory drivers. On the Continuum GRC side, the platform that supports all of that, it is more of a full life cycle support. So customers preparing for those evaluations, those audits, doing their diligence to maintain internally, even if they're not under some sort of assessment, but just maintaining those programs, beefing up their cybersecurity and policies, procedures, things of those nature. So the tooling helps them prepare, helps them maintain and sustain those pursuits. So just some high level of the two companies.
Cool. So, what made you drive to build your own business? What was your thoughts behind that, and what's your origin story? What was the match or spark that got it moving?
Yeah. So there are two stories. One followed another. I'll probably start with the Continuum side first.
Okay.
And the audit, audit work that we do, the evaluation work, it's absolutely necessary, and more so as we become even more automated and connected and intertwined, and who knows where data and endpoints and observations and all this stuff flows. But in order to create a more efficient environment to help organizations better identify where risks are, how are we doing, weighing and analyzing this. So when I in the early days of Lazarus Alliance, all of this work was pretty much done with spreadsheets, or as I call them, spreadsheets.
Yeah. There you go, right there with you.
Yeah, but I mean, this work is pretty tedious. I'm not going to say it's interesting. It's rewarding, but can be quite mind-numbing from my perspective. I don't sit still well. So, how can I get through these things more efficiently, more completely? Maybe it's a new standard or something like that. So how do I get up to speed with that? I mean, audits doesn't matter what framework. They're nothing but a compilation of questions, right?
Yep.
So it's not complicated, but they all have their own little twists. So how do you become, proficient at, what is a growing number of compliance programs, and we can go off on a whole tear, with the evolution of frameworks and what different places of the world are doing to introduce or address or perpetuate those things. But probably for a conversation for a much longer day on another
There you
day.
go.
But anyways, that became the inspiration for Continuum GRC. It's how can I work smarter and not harder, kind of a thing.
There you go.
And this is where the altruistic side of my brain competes with the capitalist pig side of my brain. I need to reduce my billable hours by being more efficient. Well, that's contrary to the capitalist pig side of things, right?
Yes.
Where it's all about the billable hours. Anyways, I chose to be more efficient. How can I benefit more organizations of all sizes, and just kind of really make a meaningful contribution to to this industry. And Continuum, that's where the inspiration came from there. So we incubated
Love
for
it.
a number of years, battle tested with real customers, real auditors and stuff. 2015, I split the software business off onto its own. It independently operates, as Continuum GRC Inc. So that's kind of where that started. For Lazarus Alliance, you could kind of say it started with rock and roll.
I love it.
What does that mean? Well, when I was a much younger man, and this is kind of like in my teens. I mean, early days, right? Anyways, I had a rock band. I performed. I thought, maybe being a rock star, that might be a great career or something, Had a lot of fun with that and stuff, but I was also in electrical engineering in college, and I, for whatever reason, always kind of took a risk-based approach to many things in my life. So I don't know, maybe if I was a little braver, a little bolder, a little bit more risk, accepting when I was in my 17, 18-year-old brain, I might have said, yeah, hell yeah, rock star, man.
There you go. And do it, man.
But I'm thinking, I don't know if I'll live through that, Maybe I'll be successful, maybe I won't, So I'm making these risk decisions, right? So I thought, no, engineering, I need to go, I need to do that, complete that mission, right? So I decided to get into the Air Force, and I couldn't bring my band with me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get one of these PCs and do some sequencing software, music software on there, and get some electronic gear, and I'll just kind of program this and bring my band with me, right?
There you go.
So fully embracing technology, I mean, robots do that now for us. That's a better version of what I had, in the 80s there. But I got my hands on my first computer, right? So, like I said, I was in an engineering program, so I had a real solid electronics background. So I kind of, I did. I understood the machine. The software was new, right? So, okay, being the curious person I am, hey, what happens if I manipulate that or change that line of code and do this and that? Well, we call that hacking today, right?
Yep.
Well, that basically planted the seeds for, hey, this machine is cool. I like, I like the hardware, I like the software, getting it to do what I want. And then came modem. So now exploring, and boy, oh boy, I would find my way into all kinds of companies. And who are you and why are you here? That was a frequent question, and it was always just exploration. It was just big wild electronic world. So well, therein was kind of the inspiration. It's like, okay, what can I do to keep people like me out, right? So anyways, so my mind kind of shifted to that. I changed electrical engineering to computer science. Back then, cybersecurity wasn't a thing. You were either management or programming. So I'm like, okay, programming. So let's learn more about this software and how to do cool things. So that kind of took me on the path, which then it's like, okay, let's build a business. So 26 years ago, we launched, what was effectively the first iteration of Lazarus Alliance, and for a number of years, kind of sole practitioner, consulting and doing cool stuff. But then very quickly realized, what, there's a lot more here to do. I need to, collect, surround myself with, with competent, qualified individuals to help me build this. Start adding, real defined services and solutions, and just really firm the mission up, So started marching in that direction, and here we are 26 years later. So anyways, that's
really super interesting, because it sounds to me like we led a similar path. Well, I think it sounds like we're about the same age, because I got out of high school in the 70s, and computers were just being discovered at the time. That could be small. We used VIC-20s and Commodore 64s, and the first 88 or 8086s maybe is what it was. 8086, can't remember. Servers to do whatever we wanted to do, and I'll leave it at that. So I actually went into the Army, and I spent time. I'm electrical engineer, so I got my degree in electrical engineering. Yep, and I got brought up to Washington D.C. to do a job, and it was delayed. And since I had some Unix experience, they put me on this one task, and that task shot me off into the computer industry, and it's all because of a contract that was delayed. And that totally transformed what I did. I ended up being a consultant and helping folks figure out what they need to do. And the reason why I got into cybersecurity was I had a customer who had a challenge. This was back in the late 80s, early 90s, before the internet was a thing. And they were trying to figure out how to get unclassified information off the classified network and move it into a unclassified world that you could send directly. We were trying to get information to law enforcement agents, because I did counter narcotics for years. And well, I say I did counter narcotics. I actually built systems that did counter narcotics analysis. So very similar path. And then finally, I realized that maybe I should do my own thing. So I went on my own almost 20 years ago. We've been in business 19 years. It'll be 19 years here in a few months. And really helping customers figure out how to do that cybersecurity thing. And because of one customer said, "Hey, I got some money. I want to be able to solve this problem. If you can help me solve it, you can get it." And so sure enough, I brought some cybersecurity engineers on, and we developed a path. I mean, this was before firewalls. This was before, any of those things. So, and we had to have hardware engineers. We had to have software engineers to be able to build these one-way guards that we could send information out, but not be able to get back up through the network. So really fun and exciting things. And then since then, I've done some really cool things throughout. Most of it's been in the cybersecurity engineering space. Didn't really think so much about compliance, even though I needed to meet it along the way. but it was always about engineering and solving and being able to prove that what you did is exactly what you need to do to prove that you're meeting a certain framework. And then, even back then was even before NIST, before NIST 853, came out. So we were trying to figure out the best way to even prove. So we were developing with the government the best methods you could use, the best standards that you could use in order to prove it. And back then it was not even spreadsheets at the time. It was really just on paper, and Word documents, because it was, they hadn't even established the frameworks. But since then, like we got really good frameworks that we see, and we've been able to expand that. Not just me, but everybody in this industry has been able to expand it to cloud and cloud technology. And that's when FedRAMP came out, and FedRAMP was and is a big component of what we do here every day at Infusion Points as well. We mostly build cloud solutions, and we manage those cloud solutions, and then we have a security operations center where we defend those same customers in that space. And I think where I found you was actually in the marketplace, the FedRAMP marketplace, for your GRC software.
Yeah.
I would love to know your journey on how you went through the FedRAMP process, how you got your government customer, and then where you're at with that. So,
well, that would be the Continuum GRC
yep.
side, and I mean, we're also out there as a FedRAMP 3 PAO on the Lazarus Alliance side. So you could say I wear two hats there. But on the Continuum side, we're coming up on year 6 of authorization. And that's I'd say it was it's not an adventure, it's been a journey. And dealing with the FedRAMP PMO is always just a barrel of monkeys, I guess. So the SBA is our sponsor. We've certainly enjoyed the designation. We originally, when we were under evaluation, the SBA said, go FedRAMP high. Great, great. We had to, do a little bit more work to reach that level. And then, our 3 PAO that we had to hire, which of course could not be Lazarus Alliance.
Right.
So we hired these guys to do our FedRAMP high audit. We completed that. It took us maybe 6 months longer than it should have because the FedRAMP PMO lost our paperwork. So we had to kind of redo a lot of things. Once we got over that, though, then we got to our SAR debrief. And so the cool thing was we went in with only 4 minor vulnerabilities that were on the security assessment report. The PMO didn't believe that.
Been there, done that.
Right.
Yeah.
But and these were minor things. They were not part of the platform as vulnerabilities. These were business decisions, meaning that. So one of them, it was your recovery time objective, for FedRAMP high should be 12 hours. You say you do it in 24 hours. Well, if I want to spend the extra money for hot infrastructure to support this environment, somebody's going to pay for that, right?
Right.
But just to leave it, idle until a customer wants it, well, that's a spend I don't need to make. So I'll take the lump, rather than the spend. So there were things like that. So really, really nothing to do with the platform and more to do with business. So, we're a security company. So, we we know how this works. So we came through that really well. Got our authorization, and we've maintained it consistently for, like I said, we're coming up to 6 years. So that's been a nice advantage for us. We're the only assessment platform in the world that can say that. Now, there's some GRC tools that have entered the FedRAMP space, but GRC is the only acronym that maybe we have in common. We just called ourselves Continuum GRC because that was the popular acronym. No, we're really an assessment platform. Now, because, and I built it for Lazarus Alliance to collect evidence, to analyze evidence, to make getting through an audit more straightforward, to help my assessors master those frameworks without a lot of advanced. You could almost drop in without prior knowledge of a framework. You're going to get through it just fine. So, it just kind of leads you through. So now, what are we analyzing? All this customer data. Well, customer has to put stuff in. Well, okay, they put their SSP in. Well, let's give them the tools to build it in the system, not just upload it, right? So, so we added the customer side capabilities because it was just a natural fit, right?
One flows right into the other, in my opinion, right?
So one-stop shop there. So,
yep.
Okay, and then you have continuous monitoring, the sustaining this after the fact. So, okay, let's extend it to do that. Natural points of delineation between one phase and another. So, what would you call us? I don't know. But anyways, we are Continuum GRC.
Yep.
So an interesting thing, we've been through three PAOs. We enjoy the one that we have right now. They spent most of the time with us. I'm not going to dish on who they are or
that's fine. Yeah,
to the curve.
It's a small community, so
yeah. But no, the current 3 PAO, they've been doing a fine job. So
good.
But,
that's actually another similarity that we have. We're also a 3 PAO, although we have never done an audit, and we actually I want to say June 20th
right.
is when our cert expires. We're actually going to let it go.
Oh.
So the main reason why we're letting it go is because the FedRAMP PO is changing, and I think the role of three POs are also changing in this space as well. And we mostly kept it so we could be on the list of kind of certified three PAOs, so people could find us marketing, more marketing and sales for us.
Yeah.
Granted, everybody in the company could do an audit if they had to. And we had our 3 or 4 folks, whatever the requirement was, to be able to maintain that. And they're supposed to be creating a list for consultants and outside suppliers as well. We actually just had our platform management tool, which we call XBU40, get certified in the 20X realm. So that's more about the automation of the FedRAMP audits. Have you been keeping up with that at all? Or have you looked at that at all?
Yeah,
the 20X side.
Yeah, we have. So, man, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So, what was it, 2.5 years ago, when they announced the end of the jab,
Yep.
We're introducing the PMO application process, and bringing it more to the PMO rather than agencies, and they were going to create this separate board to kind of facilitate, a lot of nice sounding things, right? They had public comment. One of the comments I put in there was, basically what's the future look like for 3 PAOs? It almost looks like you guys are trying to phase us out, right? Nobody answered that question. They didn't answer any of the questions. It was just, here's public comment, piss off.
Yeah.
So anyways, no surprises there. Anyways, so the jab went away. The PMO application process is still not in place. You still have agency authorizations. Great. 20X. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to talk about 20X. I mean, so really zero impact to us at the moment.
Right.
I mean,
Folks who have Rev 5 authorizations are going to be able to maintain those authorizations. As a matter of fact, I think I saw a comment made by the PMO office that's basically said they're going to support them indefinitely. I don't know what indefinitely means. I'm sure eventually there'll be a timeline that will be, but I've not seen it yet. So
they had posted an RFP for a GRC tool.
Yep.
I think that was 2 years ago. We of course put our hat in the ring. Here's the funny thing: 100% of what they were looking for, we were already doing, including OSCAL. We got involved with the NIST working group right at the beginning for OSCAL. So my opinion about OSCAL is that, okay, you guys go from Word documents to Google Docs. Congratulations. Big advance, right?
I'm right there with you. I am not, and I have said multiple times, I'm not a fan of OSCAL. I'm a fan of machine readable.
Yeah.
If the machine readable framework isn't so complicated that I need a PhD to read it, or a PhD tool to be able to interpret it as well. What advancement are you really getting with that? I'm more for simple machine readable formats. And today, I mean, to be honest with you, if you have the schema, you can build a tool pretty quickly to interpret anything. But the whole thing around OSCAL, I think it was meant well. It's meant well, and I think it for other times it was would have probably worked. But in this fast-paced world that we're in today, there's no way in the world that you could get something like that to work.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion,
like I just described it, I mean, it's a concept that that was a decade ago,
right?
But we're way beyond this. So,
yes.
Anyways, we did throw our hat in the ring. Didn't get the time of day, which is pretty messed up. Just kind of indicates that favorites are picked. But I haven't heard anything about developments there. We've submitted.
So they actually made public that the company that was working on it is no longer working on it. Oh. And they've revamped their entire process for this. With it, I won't dive too deep into 20X because we're knee deep in 20X ourselves. And for us, we've been doing FedRAMP for more than a dozen years. We've been doing this for quite a few years, and we have gotten quite a few companies kind of authorized through this process. And then typically after we build these solutions for these folks, we will manage those solutions because many of them require U.S. citizens on U.S. soil.
Right.
And we're based here in Western North Carolina, and we have that capability built in training and all that here in Western North Carolina. We have that security operations. Good.
North Carolina, you say? I just don't pick that up in your accent.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that. So I live in North Carolina, and I've probably lived more than half of my life in North Carolina. And my mother and father are both from North Carolina, except for I grew up in Delaware. I went to school in Delaware. So there's a mix between parents being from the South and me being raised in the Middle Atlantic states. And my wife is actually from here in Western North Carolina as well. So that's how I ended up being here. So
I've lived in 11 states. Probably the highest concentration, Arizona, at this point.
And where you at now today?
Scottsdale.
You in Arizona today?
Yeah.
Scottsdale? Yeah. So, do you live in the suburbs, or do you live like in the city?
No, suburbs. Yeah, there.
Okay,
It's a neighborhood. Feels rural, even though it's 5 minutes from everything.
that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, the properties out here, we're just under 2 acres in an HOA, so
Oh
it's
wow.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what I like about here and where I live. It's a fairly large county.
Hmm.
I think we have 60,000 people who live here, give or take, and we live in town in a house, kind of an iconic house here in town. And if that house was, say, in Northern Virginia, it'd probably be worth $3 or $4 million. You know, here it's much less than that. I'll tell you that right now. And I live 5 minutes from my office. I have an office at my house, and then I have this office here as well that I can get to pretty easily. And that's one of the reasons why I really like living here and working here as well. We get great talent from the local colleges. We have the ability to train and lead people from here. And then if you're an outdoorsman, I love to hike, so I spend a lot of time outside and walking and hiking,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely gorgeous. So talk to me a little bit about where do you see like GRC going in the future, and where do you see your company kind of leading into or going into over the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, so I can certainly. I think it's probably obvious to just about everybody that AI and automation is all the rage, right? What are we doing in Continuum, and for that matter, on the Lazarus Alliance side with that? Well, so first off, customer can get into a Continuum portal. Let's just say they're a FedRAMP customer, right? Or CMMC or something like that. Well, you got to build your SSP. You got to write your documentation, right? So the AI capabilities in Continuum will do probably 90% of that in about 5 seconds. Used to be, tech writers, professional tech writers would sit with your team and interview you and explain the controls and write to the rigor of the standard. To do a moderate level SSP, probably about 150 hours, right?
Sounds about right.
Nice little piece of business for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that's done in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And what's left? It's the true customization that's required, right? Well, the machine learns about that customization as you're doing it. So you tweak it up, and then subsequent iterations it incorporates what it's learned. So that's really cool. So okay, so I'm getting prepared. It's scoring policies, procedures, my documentation, giving me a quality score, a risk score. So if I see 80% green or higher, I can probably sit on my laurels and move on, right? But it gives me feedback on what I could do to improve that. So you're getting consulting, you're getting tech writing, you're getting risk assessment, a gap analysis, a mock audit. All those things are very close cousins, right? And as a byproduct of working in that system, okay? So right away, you've just saved tens of thousands of dollars and months of effort right out of the gate. Basic functionality. Okay.
And the quality probably went up as well, right?
100%.
Yep.
For everyone, right? On the auditor side, okay. So not to deviate, I do have a tendency to, because there's all sorts of directions that we can go with.
And what we work in, it's a spider web,
Yeah.
right? It is. It's just it goes out everywhere. So I totally understand.
So okay, so now that customer's prepared, They've got their SSP. Tell you, the biggest SSP that's been produced that I know of, 1,200 pages. Absolute monster. War and Peace and SSP fall.
Oh yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah. So so there's that, and then as they upload policies and procedures, that gets scored. So the auditors, they see this, right? They see the evaluations, they see the scores. I don't have to read that policy anymore. The AI has read it for me, and it tells me exactly what conforms and what doesn't. So, the haystack where the auditor's looking through it for all the needles, well, it's finding 100% of the needles now. Much more than the human auditors were doing, right?
And it can tie things together. It can do that cross pollination. So you have in your policy, is it actually written about also in your SSP, and is it actually in the technology? It can take all that stuff and pull it together as well, which that's something I thoroughly enjoy. So
Absolutely, evidence correlation is big.
there you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yep. Okay, I've just uploaded this this piece of evidence. Okay, the AI in the system will tell you where else it's useful. What are the controls it's useful for as a piece of evidence, and then it associates that. So I don't have to look. I don't have to. Gee, I'm on AC1 and maybe AT1 or something like that. It's cross compatible. I don't have to know that. Okay. Now, definitely having familiarity with the control requirements, that's another thing. Okay. We refer to it as our AI TAM cyberbot. I mean, that's a mouthful. It is a trademark. It's copyright.
Right. There you go.
But anyways, our bot, right? So originally the product was Information Technology Assessment Machine, ITAM, right? Well, then when you added the AI part in 2019 officially, so then it was A.ITAM, right?
There you go.
I think, therefore, ITAM. There. Got T-shirts for that. So, anyways, that has evolved into, it's a synthetic auditor now. So
There you go.
a customer can enter the system any day of the week, any time of the day, from anywhere they have access. Try that with a human team. I'm not up that time. Oh no, I gotta drop off the kids at school.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
On a bad hair day, whatever. So no, that synthetic auditor is available whenever you're available. So you get into the system. Hey, I've got 15 minutes. Let's get something done, or I've got a few hours. Let's get more done. So
Right.
I go in. I don't understand what this is about. So the system explains it to them. 340 languages is something crazy,
Wow.
right? So very accessible. Your time zone, your whenever you want. So it explains the purpose, the point of that control requirement. It explains examples for things that you can do to become compliant with it. It provides examples of evidence that auditors would look for to validate conformity to that requirement. So, just a byproduct of being in the system. So, okay. All right, I have some idea of what I do. I start filling in the blanks. It starts assessing my inputs and giving me assurances that, hey, you're looking pretty good. Keep going. And so all of this stuff, that's on the user side. Now on the auditor side, I don't have to read those policies word for word. I can take the system, the AI's, recommendation, the analysis that it has done that work for me. It's more thorough. I get the feedback. That goes into my work papers, my testing descriptions. The old testing workbook for FedRAMP.
Oh yeah, yes. The big spreadsheet that's cut and pasted 4,000 times a Sunday for every customer.
24,000 fields.
Yeah.
I mean, it's macro ridden. It's horrible. But you have to manually transcribe into that rascal. That was put nicely. That's not what I was.
There you go. That was a good word.
Inside my head. It's much worse than that.
Yes, 100% agree.
You have to put the file names that you analyze, the policy names. You have to, the 3POW, interview this person or assess that, or these are the findings. That information has to be transcribed manually into this spreadsheet. Oh, there it goes. Well, our system does that for them. It's
That's awesome.
Okay, here's the feedback on this evidence. Let me just put that information into that. It's still a spreadsheet, unfortunately. So, okay, we can do that. So it puts it in there. And then the assessors just have much less work to do to, it's more or less like a QA review at this point, right?
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you've been able to integrate AI tremendously into your application, and you're also doing some really good automation pieces as well. That's definitely where we need to be as we move. This whole compliance engineering, and be able to prove it, and then be able to prove it over and over again as quickly as possible. And to me, that is the bottom line of what we're attempting to do. And when we have these kind of conversations, is exactly what we're trying to kind of dig out or suss out folks as well. So you're definitely doing it in your corner of the world as well. So if you don't mind, let me change the subject just real quick as well. Something that I like to talk about a little bit, but I only have a few more minutes to talk about it. But it really is around something that we're a firm believer in here at Infusion Points, is what we call evergreen companies. And if you're not familiar with that, I can send you some information, and maybe we can put some additional links here in the podcast as well. Evergreen companies, it's really neat on how they're formed, how they're managed and run. They're run by folks who are self-funded, bootstrapped kind of companies. People who are really driving their people to do the right things, being mission focused. As well. And it sounds to me like everything you've talked about today, that's kind of where you're at as well. What is your philosophy on like ownership and how you drive the actual management of your business? If that makes sense, the question I'm asking.
Sure. Well, both companies are bootstrapped, 100%.
Yep.
We we don't even have bank debt. We just make it.
I love zero debt. It's awesome.
So that requires that we maintain certain funding levels internally to weather.
Cash flow is everything.
Right. So that's no different anywhere, right?
Yep.
So yeah, we just have to be mindful of that. But I won't say every day, but several times a week I get inquiries from, funding people, acquisition people.
Yep.
I've had 100 or more conversations, with these types. It's an interesting conversation. It's an easy conversation on the Lazarus Alliance side, service-based, easy, and all they want to do is look at your balance sheets, right? And what's your EBITDA? Simple math.
Right.
These guys
give you that 1.7 multiple.
Right. Fire sale.
Our customers list isn't worth anything. Yeah. No, it's kind of a bit of a rude awakening. I know I made the transformation. I met a good friend of mine who lives in the next town over from where I'm at now. And he introduced me to the Evergreen movement. And I'd love to be able to send you some information on that as well. And there's a great book that I could recommend for you to read as well. It's called Another Way. It's by a guy named Dave Wharton. And I would send you one, but I'm out of books. But I do have them on order. And but it's Another Way by Dave Wharton. He's a great guy. He's actually the guy who runs this institute called Tugboat Institute, and it's all for companies like the way you're describing yourself, the way that we are. We live by these principles that they describe, being private, being able to have a paced growth, be able to manage your people, be able to have profit. Because if you don't have profit, you can't invest back into your company as well. So. I tell you, it's been a pleasure, Michael, talking with you today. I don't know if you have any additional questions you'd like to ask me, or if there's anything that I missed along the way that you'd want to add into this.
No, I think you and I could talk all day.
There you go. Facts.
And once we introduce, cigars and scotch, then it'll go on even longer.
There you go.
No, it's been a pleasure, Gary. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, we probably should try to do it again. I haven't been out to Arizona. Last time I was in Arizona, I can't remember exactly what Tempe. Maybe I was in Tempe, Arizona. It was like 130 degrees, and it was you couldn't walk between buildings. It was so hot. So
that's what sangria and swamp coolers are for.
There you go. Well, I truly appreciate your time today. It was a great conversation. I love learning a bit about your company, a bit about yourself as well. Thank you for your service as well. Even though you did spend time in the Air Force, I won't.
Hey, it just means I scored better on my ASVABs, man.
There you go. I totally agree. So, but totally enjoy the conversation, and that's another episode of Behind the Shield. You may not always find me behind the shield, but you're always going to find somebody from Infusion Points behind the shield.